like Radiohead do their thing to get people where they need to get them, and Kasabian, we do our thing to get people where they go. I think totally different approach.
Evening everyone, thanks for joining me here on episode 77 of the podcast. Greg here. Tonight's guest on Midnight Chats is Sergio Pizzorno, aka Serge from Kasabian, the band's guitarist and chief songwriter. He maybe feels like a bit of an outsider choice to some people compared to who we normally have on the podcast, but I've met Serge a few times over the 2 decades his band have been together, and I've always thought that he's not necessarily like what a lot of people expect or into the things that people might expect. Kasabian are on a bit of a break at the moment, but Serge has kept working. He recently released his debut solo album under the name The SLP. The album had the same title. Stylistically, it's pretty out there and also features guests like Little Sims and Slow Tie. Anyway, back in early July, I went to meet up with Serge. He was off to the tennis at Wimbledon the next day. He had just got back from a baking hot Glastonbury festival this year as a punter, and that's where the conversation starts. We went on to chat about his respect for the likes of Radiohead and Tom York, the perception of Kasabian, terrible British service stations, and letting his kids cause a mess in his home studio. All that and more. I hope you enjoy this episode of Midnight Chats. And don't forget, you can support this podcast by subscribing to the magazine we make, Loud and Quiet. All the information is at loudandquiet.com/subscribe. Sign up and we'll post you our next 9 issues for as little as £3 per month. How have you been? How has your summer been? What have you been up to? Have you had your feet up? Have you been watching Glastonbury, watching the World Cup? What kind of things have you been up to?
I went to Glasgow.
You went?
As a, just went with nothing to do. Me and my wife went.
So you leave the kids at home?
Yeah.
So you actually had the genuine Glastonbury experience?
I gotta say, it was like, so probably 15 years I've been going there. I have been going there 15 years. And I've probably travelled from back behind the pyramid to the other stage, and then behind the pyramid to on the pyramid. And I thought, Glasgow's amazing, it's massive. Little did I know, walking into the place, I mean, like, the main stages, and it's like a 2% of what it is. And it's, you know, obviously this is no revelation, but for me I was like, what have I been doing all this time, man? Like, and so, yeah, we literally went over to like Shangri-La, and then, is it Sector 9 or there's a
So there's like Block 9.
Block 9.
Is that the thing with the big
Like
robot?
and there was a pier, and then the park stage. It was amazing. I was blown away, and it's crazy that I've been going there that long and not have had any clue.
So did you end up spending time investigating that part of Glastonbury?
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Shangri-La. Cool. I loved it there, man. It was great. I saw a few things. But do you know what, though? You need, like, orienteering, like, you know, qualifications.
You need a scout badge.
Honestly, it's like, the logistics are going, right, we need to go here. Man, that's another hour, man. I'm not going anywhere. You got to plan. But I sort of felt a sense of pride as well, because obviously we headlined it, and I was, you know, I knew it was special, and I knew it was like, you know, almost like we really thought that the start of the band was like, imagine that's kind of where we want to get to. But I had a sort of second wave of that going, man, that is such an art, like it really is, this, you know, like the scale of it all. It's like, wow, that was really special, you know.
Who were the highlights in terms of the artists you saw from the weekend?
Slow Tie.
We'll talk a bit about him in a minute.
We'll get to him later, yeah. I mean, I've seen him a few times, and he is the real deal, man. He's very, where he is now, you know, as a front man, it took us like, now we're sort of, the last album, we're in a place where I think we've figured out who we are, what we do, you know, in terms of the live show, and he's there, and he's like, you know, his album's been out like 2 weeks. It's like, I don't know what, and the way he controlled that crowd, and the way his delivery, the confidence, and I was blown away. Like, I would you know, if Stormzy's opened the door, then I would like to think we live in a world where Slow Tie will headline at Glastonbury, because I think he'd absolutely kill it.
Did you watch the Stormzy headline show?
I saw a bit, but kind of miles away. Yeah, I mean, it was job done, really, wasn't it?
It was incredible.
It was incredible. I saw Dave as well.
Oh, so you saw the moment when that guy Alex got
Do you know what? I missed
that bit. That was all over the internet the following week.
Man, I was like...
He was on Good Morning Britain like 3 days
Don't,
later.
man, because I was like... Someone sent me the next morning, I was like, oh man, we must have left. Because again, it's like, you sort of have to, you know, we need to get somewhere else then. It's like, fuck, we're going to have to walk. I can't get over his delivery, like, crisp, like, and effortless flow. You know, again, it's like, that's some skills there. I think his album's incredible. I saw a bit of Tame Impala, a sort of perfect sound. I kind of couldn't get over how, like, I was like, fuck, that's pretty incredible noise they're making. I don't know, like, after seeing like Ty and that, and he's just, you know, Kevin Parker is like, he's a beautiful singer and great, but you know, that element.
It's the opposite ends of the spectrum in a way, isn't it? Because
there's
like,
no showbiz.
No, like, Tame Impala is kind of like, this is the music, it's kind of delivered without any...
effortless kind of, it was great, it was mega. Saw a bit of Pond as well. Yeah, I had a lot of plans to, you know, go and see a lot of people, but they all just fell to pieces.
How did you feel by the Sunday, given that you did it in a kind of, almost as a punter, you know?
I did stay in a hotel round the corner.
Oh, you cheated, Serge.
I did. I did. Do you know what though? When I turned that aircon on,
you were like, this is the greatest decision I've ever made.
Because like, I did feel a bit like I cheated a bit. But then my mates were in this tent, and they'd got the posh tents, you know, the ones that are already set up. And they were like sending me texts going, this is the hottest work. I was like, oh, you know what, I did cheat, but I don't care. With a nice cooked breakfast in the morning, man, and a shower. And on the Sunday, it was a bit like, just get off, just go home, fuck. But no, we made it down there, and we saw a bit of, it's kind of mad, the Sunday was a mad one. Was
it like Kylie doing
Kylie
the
and
slot?
Miley Cyrus and The Cure.
How do you look back on headlining that festival? Because that was 2014. What are your recollections from stepping on the Pyramid stage as a headliner?
Like, genuine fear. Genuine, keep the car running, you know what I mean? I might just not, I don't know if I can.
Really?
I mean, it was never not, but there was genuine like, man, this is like I don't really, never get, I mean, I get nervous, excited, but it's on a low level. This was serious. This was like, we felt like it was this sort of, you know, we were going to meet.
It's your World Cup final, wasn't it?
We're going to meet our maker, you know what I mean? It's like, have you got the goods? After all this time and the journey you've been on, you know, you're going to be there. What, you know, have you got anything, you know, you know. So the first 3 songs, I was like, you know, it was, I didn't know, I kind of didn't really know what the hell was going on. Like shell shock, you know what I mean? Because we're loud anyway. And it was just like, I was trying to figure out like 120,000 people in front of me. And I know this is on the telly, everywhere, you know what I mean?
Does that add another dimension into things?
Massively, because I've sat on the settee and watched it and gone, who the fuck are these guys? We all do it, man, you know what I mean? And then when people are killing it, you sort of go, yes. And I kind of knew, you know, that everyone would have the say in your performance. So that was going on. But I've learned to use all that and project out. Like, I need it to perform, I think. Like, I need that. I need all those voices to at some point, just tell them all to leave me alone. Fucking leave me alone. And then I just become one of the Beastie Boys, you know, with a Rickenbacker, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of where like, talking, you know, that's what I've, over the years, figured out my place in the kind of, what I do live is, you know, like an MC with a guitar, you know what I mean? Try and if I can feel the crowd, now I feel a responsibility that we need to give these people a night and entertain. Maybe back in the day, I'd resent, like, you'd just be like, oh, fuck you then. You're not going to move, nor am I. Which is, you know, that was also a move.
Yeah.
Which
is that just a useful thing? That's just like when you first started out with the band?
Maybe, yeah, and it's also, you've probably not got the goods. You've not got it in you to go, you know what, fuck, they're not into it, and what do I, you know, so it's like, no, I'm going to make this, you learn to make things happen, like, you know, you can make shit happen. And that was a turning point in me on stage, where I started to feel more of a, like, it's all about creation for me, and all about, you know, that's what I buzz off more than anything in the world. So now I started, I can do shit on stage that will make things happen. Just by the simple things to start with, and then it sort of developed. So then we did Crazy, which, putting myself in situations, a bit like this, the solo album, is, why did I decide that it would be a good idea to just do an acoustic song on my own at Glastonbury? It's like, and I've turned around to get the guitar, and I'm like, whoa, this is huge. This is like, in my going, oh fuck, what are the chords again? Is it? What are those? What's the first line? Just as I'm about to sing it, and that's all going on. That goes really well, and the crowd sing, and everyone's sort of relaxed. With the band relaxed, I put the guitar down and had a little word myself and said, mate, if you can do that, anything from now on in is a piece of piss.
Yeah.
And then I relaxed. The crowd, the boys, everyone was just like, and then the gig from that moment just took off, and it was, you know, it was the best night we've had as a band.
In that case, if the opportunity ever came again, would you do it again, or are you almost like, it's almost too good to touch?
I couldn't, yeah, I'd have to 100% do it again. Better.
Oh, you think there's more to give? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something interesting about, something comes out of a performance from an artist when they get to headline Glastonbury for the first time, right? I think you saw that from Stormzy. So effectively, it's not only them going, this is what I do, but I think there's also an element of, I've earned this, this is my platform, this is my first time, there's a certain energy that goes with doing something for the first time, the fear and all the adrenaline and everything else. When you come back and do something for the second time, can it be better, or it's just different, or because there's sometimes you've headlined festivals multiple
I think
times.
It's probably, yeah, it's a difficult one, because you're absolutely right. The observation of the nerves and the energy of that, but there may be a little more confidence in knowing it's going to be okay, and knowing that, you know, you can kind of, I don't know, you just maybe enjoy the moment and sort of take it in, rather than sort of be this kind of like mad ball of, you know, excitement and energy. You can maybe, but I just think, you know, we've had another record since then. You know, if we were to do it again, we'd have another record, so we'd have more music, and I'd absolutely love to do it. Yeah.
And now that you've seen Glastonbury from the other side as well, you've got
you
even
know what?
better
I think
understanding.
that's probably where it comes from. It was a better understanding. Yeah, and it was amazing to be stood in the middle of that crowd and at the pyramid and stuff, seeing back.
So talking about putting yourself in a situation where you want to challenge yourself and do something new, you made a solo album. The SLP is what it's called, the project and the name of the album. By the time people hear this, the album will be out. When did you first have the idea that you wanted to do this? How long has that been kind of moving around in your mind?
It came through, we decided to have a year off, because we'd look back at the last 15 years and realised we'd not had a summer off. If we'd not made an album, we still toured. It was I think 6 albums in, and where we've got to, it was the right time to just disappear for a little bit. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'll start writing anyway. Then I had sort of this meanwhile music in a hard drive, and I thought, well, this would be the time. I wanted to put that out, so I just thought it's just going to sit there for 10 years. And
is that stuff that you've been like tinkering with when you've been writing other material for Kasabian? You've kind of gone, not quite right, or for whatever reason that feels more like it's part, you just instinctively knew it was part of something else?
Yeah,
it
was
kind of been as you went, just popping ideas to one side?
Yeah, and it was movie soundtrack, you know, sort of how much I love that world. It didn't feel right, but I thought what would be really interesting is this sort of beginning, middle and end, meanwhile in Genoa, you know, meanwhile at the Welcome Break, meanwhile in the Silent Nowhere, that I thought really, I thought if I just fill in the gaps between and make something that didn't have to consider headlining Glastonbury, you know what I mean? Go in the studio, work on instinct, get a beat, get a rhythm. If it's good, don't question it, it goes in. And I enjoyed making it, it goes in, that was it. And I wanted, like this meanwhile thing of, it's like meanwhile in the Batcave, you know? It's like you Bruce Wayne, you Batman, it's like,
it's just another part of your
Serge
personality.
from Kasabian. You always have to remember that bit, and you know, the SLP. So it just made sense to me. I could see what it like. I didn't want to just go, oh, let's put a solo album out because you know it's like there always has to be a reason and you know an artistic sort of you know point to it for me to just go right. I can that makes sense and I can do that, and then finding. I suppose it was like little pinpointing little parts of my personality and then just turning them up a bit. Because, you know, just, like David Byrne, Bowie, and all these boys that I'm big fans of.
Do you think it will surprise people because it's an album that visits a lot of different corners of your musical taste? Like,
yes.
This is personally speaking, but it's quite diverse. So you've got tracks on there that could be like an MIA track. You've got some kind of like Balearic, kind of almost like melancholy dance club tracks. You've got sort of Scott Walker-esque, like beautiful spaghetti western strings. So it really does run a spectrum.
Yeah.
So is that reflective of, that's just basically collecting all together your tastes over the years?
It's each tune is an element of me that is part of. It's I could say it's a specific element of my personality that's like I sort of all the things you've just mentioned then that's my record collection there, you know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think maybe there are some people that think, they imagine you working at home and listening to your favourite music, they're just thinking, oh, so you're probably listening to a Beatles record again or whatever.
Yeah.
But in fact, you're probably more likely to be found listening to like Death Grips or something like that. Is
no,
that
absolutely.
fair?
Yeah. I mean, it spans. Like I sort of go through phases. But I touched on it earlier. It's like I'm fascinated by things like anything that interests me, anything with a little bit of humour as well. There's certain bands that I hear, certain things, that little twist, that dark humour. That's in all my work really. If it's not a love song, and I don't write many of them, it has to make me laugh. There has to be an element of things that would make.
Is that kind of like almost like the Noel Fielding approach to comedy or something, where there's always like a dark, sort of slightly macabre, weird twist?
Yeah, and I wanted the album to have surprises. I wanted at no point you sort of go, I wanted that. I was not expecting it to do this. And in every track, there is a moment where it just goes whoa, and you go, okay, this is. So yeah, and that was again from the outset. I kind of wanted, that surprise element, getting Sims on, getting Slow Tie on, and then songs. There's a few in there that could be two songs really, but just like, you know what, no, just glue them together.
So why, the guests you just mentioned there, so you've got Slow Tie and you've got Little Sims, kind of at the vanguard of like young British talent. Why choose to work with somebody like that? Because obviously when you approach, you're like, you decided you're going to do this project, could have gone out there and asked any manner of kind of artists that you've met over the years that you know. Why choose Little Sims and Slow Tie over asking Paul Weller or like Noel Gallagher to come and play a few licks with you?
Well, I mean, I wanted two young British artists, and I think those two are the forefront of what's exciting about now, I did toy with sort of maybe like, do it maybe sort of American sort of MC, but I just didn't feel right. This album feels very personal British to me. It feels like where I am now and where I see the world now. It was as simple as are two people that I really think are incredible. Getting Ty on Meanwhile at the Welcome Break. As soon as you hear he's on it, you would probably imagine it's going to be a distorted bass, quite punky, and it's like, again, I wanted to twist that on its head, and and give him like a beautiful romantic.
Yeah, there's like a sort of mariachi style trumpet going off in the background, isn't there? And he's not delivering it with like supreme aggression.
No,
it's this sort of
psychedelic spoken word poem. Yeah, I sent over a little thing about the service station. There's something like, I like the idea of the Milan Welcome Break and coming off the motorway, mad places, and it's like a metaphor for you coming off, having a rest, getting back on.
You probably know Britain's
service
stations better than anyone.
Yeah, they're mad, man. 3 a.m, there's parties going on in those toilets. You've never seen anything like it, mate.
There's something quite almost like uniquely British about how
massively
about bad our service stations are.
They're so bad, and the food's like it's disgusting, really. The shit they serve you. It's like, what, you know what I mean? It's like, oh man, they make it's like just bad food. It's like, fuck. It's just
the Craig sausage roll is also double the price in a service station. It's just not on.
Mate, it's terrible. So that I've really, I'm so honoured to have them on. And Sims, just ridiculously talented. Yeah. That's the little twist in Favourites where, you're not expecting that to happen.
So people will probably have seen the video for Favourites, where you're doing some dancing in front of a green screen. It kind of looks like it's sort of like this interpretive, almost like looks like kind of improv reacting to the music type thing. When you turned up that day, it was you, it was a green screen, it was the track obviously, and then how much of the actual routine was planned? Well,
it's funny because I tour a troupe who I've worked with over the years, collaborated with so much stuff, and he did the artwork and he directed that video, and we spoke before about Ace Ventura and Gene Kelly. Because I think he researched like birds of prey, to get the sort of famous walk and stuff.
Yeah.
That was like, imagine those two together. So I'd be sort of doing some moves, go, okay, that looks great, and then sort of trust me in getting the angles and making it look like a performance, say. But yeah, it was a lot of dancing, man. I was tired at the end of that day, man. It was like, it's all like really stiff, and like you have to sort of get your...
It's like Peter Crouch's Robot. Some of it.
Yeah, it's mad. I do love dancing. I really do. I might go away secretly for like a year and learn properly.
Just join diversity and then come back.
Do you know what I mean? I do. Really nail it, because I do love it. I do love it so much. I started. My first musical instrument was a sampler, and it was rave hardcore. That's the beginnings of where I started my journey. When it was about dancing, my best mate's brother, he was banging to it as well, James, and me and him would dance. Like I'd go around to his house, and we would put like top balls on, and we would dance for an hour. And it's funny because I've been talking about this, and it's just suddenly occurred to me, like, now you're talking about the video and the dancing. Yeah, you know what? It's a huge part of, like, I love it a lot,
Yeah. What are you going to do when it comes to the live show? Are you going to try something different?
It's in my. If I can get what's in my head to the stage, then I think we'll have. It'll be a good night out. I don't want anything. I don't want any picture. I don't want at any point you take a photo and you wouldn't be able to tell if it's Kasabian or if it's.
Okay.
So I don't want to.
Oh, you want it to look completely different?
It's going to be a completely different
It'll be
thing.
a different band, obviously. And
there's Tim and Ben who play with us live, and Tim who helps with the records. He's a genius, Tim.
Yep.
Without him, none of this is possible. Put it this way: I'm not going to pick up a guitar till way late in the set. Talking about putting yourself in fearful situations and like, have I got the goods for this, man? The best way I've been describing it is, just 4 a.m, you see this light emanating, you think the night's over, and you see these lights coming out of this little doorway, and there's a bouncer there, and you can't get in unless you've got the password. Someone's got it. So I heard about this. You get in, and it's like you're in like this sort of rave party, David Lynch film, and that, but everyone's all walks of life. There's not everyone's welcome. There's not like everyone. It's just everyone's in there, and you're like, man, what is this joint? But I don't want it to feel pretentious, or because there'll be theatre involved, but I don't want it to feel that I want it to feel. I want to feel like I want to put people on edge a bit. I want them to feel a little bit uncomfortable. I don't want to just have an element where I'll be stood in the crowd with you and you won't even know, kind of thing.
Okay.
So I want it to just like be like I didn't think it would be like this.
Having been through the process now, is there a lot to be said for going off and going through the process of making a solo record? Because I think of recent examples of people like Tom York and Damon Albarn who've gone off and done these projects and then gone back to their day job, so to speak. And it actually feels like quite a healthy thing to do, because It does seem to sort of re-energise, maybe, I don't know, maybe going off and doing those things actually either gets something out of your system or maybe just enriches the whole thing. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that completely. I can see the whole thing through different eyes now. I can look back and see it in a totally different perspective. I kind of know exactly the record that I'll make next. Definitely what the record I want to make, I wouldn't have made, but I don't think I'd have even got anywhere near even wanting to make one or knowing what the hell it was going to be. So it's like, on that level alone, it's the best thing I've done.
A lot of pressure kind of goes through you in terms of being, writing the material, almost kind of like running the schedule, as in like, right, we're ready to get back together.
Yeah.
Captain of the team, if you like.
Of course, yeah. I know what you mean.
How does that work? Do you kind of like message the band WhatsApp group and be like, I've got stuff ready?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think it's a hell of a motivator to like, I always think of, I've sort of been in this band now 20 odd years. So
20 years of
Kasabian. 97, so 22 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it's, I can't, it's, I don't even know, it's not even a band anymore. It's just, it's like, it's weird. It's like this. So every decision I make is about the band, So it's always there, and it's always like, well, what's the best move? What's the best move? It's just how it's always been. So none of us know any different. So it's like, I think we all kind of gave ourselves to this cause, whatever,
Yeah. What do you remember from the first show? Was like when you guys were 18, right?
Yeah. So no, you know what? No, so 97, so we were 16.
16. Was that wasn't the show at the Rugby Club, was it?
That's
talked about as being one of the first shows, isn't it?
It was kind of, yeah. The Shed, the first show was me, Tom, and Ben, who now plays with us. He's going to come on tour as well. It was me and Tom and Ben, and we played the Shed and we did acoustic set. We had like loads of pals that came, so we only got the gig because we could sell the bar. But they were fucking like, our mates still, a lot of them I still hang around with now, They were like moshing. I mean, it was insane. Like the energy surrounding the band it's always been wild. Like it's always been, like when we played, even that first gig, like it was moody and like there was fights and there was something going on, you know what I mean? It provoked. But then there was also this great energy, like it was, you knew you couldn't not write about it or you couldn't take your eyes off it, And that was so you kind of knew we had something. We had something going on.
And how has things changed over the years in terms of like the perception of the band, you think? Because originally it's kind of out of your control when you're a new band and you arrive. People, I'm talking about the kind of media almost, will put an artist kind of in a box. They'll go, oh, you're like psychedelic rock, or you're a young MC or whatever. And like Kasabian came along and people were like, right, you go in this lane. You're kind of like, you're a band for like the lads or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, how has that changed? Do you kind of like, do you mind that tag? Do you feel like you almost like reject that now and you're something slightly different?
Like in the early days, it would get to me because I always struggle to understand, you know, like intelligent people coming to this conclusion that I was so like was off the mark by a long way. But then I realised I wasted energy because you have no control. No matter what you do, you sort of you can't ever. You just the best thing is just to make what you make, and that's all you can really do. You can't control people's like perception of what you do and what you are. Like, you know, you can't kind of go, oh no, we did that because Damo Suzuki did that weird voice and that's why we did it. But they'll hear like, you know, Shawn Ryder or whatever. You go, well, yeah, no, it's great, love him, but no, it's actually, it was somewhere else. But it's like, then you go, fuck. Then I don't really give a shit. Like, I don't care. Like, you sort of, you know, it doesn't matter where any of it, you know. So you sort of, I learned early on, quickly, you just keep your mouth shut and let people say whatever they want to say, you know. And I think in the end, it's, you know, you either disappear or you carry on making music. And people, you know, if you stay in the game long enough, eventually people start to go, oh yeah, okay. Oh, I didn't realise. Okay, no, it's kind of been going on like that for a long while, but it's fine. You know, come to the party and have a drink. You know, it's fine.
A lot of the bands that came up around the same time as you either don't exist anymore or have actually done a fair bit of kind of looking back, you know, that classic thing of being like, oh, we'll go and play like our debut album in full and things like that. From the way that you've spoken, it still sounds like you're quite intent of pushing Kasabian forward and doing new things and not really, I mean, you mentioned it's 22 years.
Yeah.
You still haven't done a lot of like looking back. It seems more like,
yeah, I don't.
Why is that?
I just think like it doesn't interest me. That I don't think like there was a time and a place, I'm sure, but I feel that's a way off yet. I like new things. I like the next. You know, what's the next? You know, at the core of it all, it's just I just like making stuff. You know, videos, like art. I've got my art thing, my Daft Aper thing, that was definitely the first seeds of me going, oh, this is nice. I've opened a part of my brain that I didn't realise that I could get a really quick fix. Like making a song can take a while, and there's a pressure behind it because of what's come before, an expectation. Whereas doing a canvas or doing a print, I can knock them out pretty quickly and I get that nice little hit. It's like a nice little hit. So that sort of sets me free. I just think, yeah, I don't think it's not very interesting. I sort of like, yeah, for me it's like I like, I don't know, it's sort of a nice energy. You people that expect a certain thing or have a perception and continuing to put things out that they go, oh, what is it? Yeah, this is like, they don't really, we're hard to pin down. It's hard. I can't do it myself because my brain fucking works at a pace, but it is hard to go, I mean, we could come out with something next album that no one, you know, you can't really second guess it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think you'll still be bounding on stage at Glastonbury with a fox's tail in 10 years' time? For 20 years' time?
I hope so, man. I just think you've got to, I like to think that the taste is still there and it's done in the correct manner. Like, if you sort of take Radiohead as the kind of perfect example, like Tom York's voice for me, I mean, I spoke about it before, but he's sort of kind of a hero of mine. Like Radiohead do their thing to get people where they need to get them. And Kasabian, we do our thing to get people where they go. I think totally different approach. But we're after the same thing, to connect on this mass level with all these people in front of us. And what's interesting about seeing Tom York on stage now, he's transformed into something completely new and different, and he looks amazing. And I'm totally in. But he's got to be, 50 odd. But yeah, it's like, no, that's great. Like this is a new thing, and it's amazing. And I'm sure then he'll move on to the next thing. It's just getting it right, going with your personality. You know, trust yourself and don't fake anything. And it comes across, usually, that's always the move. You know?
Just finally, before we finish off, when you've kind of got a bit of downtime, when you're at home in Leicestershire, you've got your studio next to where you live. What's the kind of like a bit of downtime like? Because you know you've got a family. Like, do your kids show interest in your music? Like, is it got to a stage now where they're at an age where they're interested in learning about music? Is that part of your day to day?
It's important. Like I've always had a studio at home. I never really liked working away anyway. But then obviously having a family, you know, Amy and the boys are that's everything. That is everything. I've got a really nice, really beautiful home life, man. I can put when I get off tour, I can put the suitcase in the loft and it can stay there, you know. Some people can't, but I've been blessed for whatever reason to have a personality where I can shut it off and focus and be present for my kids, you know. And having them come in after school into the studio and destroy everything that's been done in the day, like, you know, move all the synth, move all the settings, and, you know, and grab the mics, just sing, and we do tunes together, and it's like, I'm really happy that, like, you know, like, I'm not one of those car crash musicians that's just, you know, off his conkers all day, just like walking around in a robe and just being a twat. And the kids are like, my dad's he's in a band, but he's a right twat. It's like, I'm there for them, you know what I mean?
It's important to be kind of like, to perform that role, like in a respectable way.
It's the main, that's it. It's a number one, and then everything else, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong, when I'm making stuff, I can lose myself in it, you know, and I'm often told, like, are you fucking in this, you know, are you here, mate? Because you're like literally glazed over, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just thinking, it's like, shush, you know. So I can lose myself, but I always try and be aware that nothing is that important, or, you know, and you know, make sure you don't miss the shit that is, you know.
Anyway, good night.